You are Locked On Buffaloes POSTCAST, powered by Mile High Sports, part of Locked On Sports Denver on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
It is your Colorado Buffaloes postcast right here on your Locked On Buffs YouTube and audio feeds. Hope everyone is hanging in there after a tough one that got away type of game for the Colorado Buffaloes as they now start their season for the first time under Coach Prime. 0-1 with a 27-20 loss to Georgia Tech. A lot to get into tonight on the program, but before we do that, tonight's episode of your Locked On Buffs postcast is brought to you by our friends over at Gametime. Download the Gametime app today, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. More from our friends over at Gametime in just a little bit. I'm your host, Aniello Piro. You guys can follow me on social media at Media by AP. This is, of course, your Locked On Buffaloes postcast. No different, or I guess I should say it is different than your Locked On Buffs podcast. Just some additional content coming your way here on the channel and on the audio feed. Apologies for anyone watching on YouTube if I just look like I'm a mess right now. I was getting drenched out there in the rain. I'm actually at Folsom Field right now after the game. Heard from Coach Prime, heard from from Jordan Seaton, Caden Salter as well, so can relay you guys some of that information as well. But yeah, about 20 minutes before the game started, just like torrential downpour and monsoon season. And so I got absolutely drenched. So apologies for that. That's why I'm looking the way that I'm looking. But, my look, I guess you could say, is reflective of how the Colorado Buffaloes played on the football field today. And that, in my opinion, is sloppy. Sloppy game from the Colorado Buffaloes. Some things to like, a lot of things to kind of pick apart here as, in my opinion, a very winnable game for the Colorado Buffaloes, folks. A very winnable game. This is a game Colorado should be 1-0 right now. If they play the level of football that they expect for themselves, if they, hit their wide receivers who have uber talent, if Caden Salter settles down in the pocket a little bit more, if the defense can stop me from running through some holes with the amount of yardage they give up today, they should have won this game. And you know what it comes down to for me? I'm sitting in the press box. I'm talking to my buddies next to me, kind of going over what's going on in the game. Three turnovers in the first quarter, 7 points. That, to me, yes, Colorado had an opportunity to punch back throughout the course of this game, but when Georgia Tech can't even get out of their own way, when Georgia Tech tries to hand you the game early on in the first quarter, and you're unable to capitalize for more than a single touchdown in those three instances, that's a problem, folks. That's a problem. And look, you want to chalk that up to the first game. Maybe they're not, as bad in that scenario had it presented itself in a month from now. But the reality of the situation is the Colorado Buffaloes were handed literally a golden opportunity to come out here. And I can't say put this game to bed early. It is college football, right? I mean, we saw what happened with CSU a couple years ago. Remember that North Dakota State opening night last year, Baylor, Kansas State last year, right? It's hard to put these teams to bed. And obviously Georgia Tech returning a bevy of different starters. So they were never going to be an easy team to put away. But they did their best job to allow the Colorado Buffaloes to try to get out to an extensive lead, a 20-plus point lead in this game. And CU was unable to do so, losing this game 27-20. So I think that's really disappointing to only come away with 7 points off of those three turnovers. That is something, Coach Prime talked about it in his post-game press conference, in regards to he's not flushed in this game right now. There's a lot for him to process. There's a lot for him to think about. There's a lot for him to take away from this game before he flushes this one down the toilet and moves on forward to the Delaware matchup. So, and I agree with him. I mean, this was just a sloppy game across the board here. We got a comment here. Tough pill to swallow for the Buffs when Georgia Tech struggled out of the gate and Haynes King still bravehearted his way to victory. Absolutely. I was standing like right below the field goal post when Haynes King ran in for that final touchdown, the final points of the game, as Georgia Tech wins this one 27-20. And, there was a minute and change left on the clock. And you're sitting here, or at least I'm standing there wondering, like, okay, like this ain't Shedeur Sanders no more, right? We've seen Shedeur Sanders pull off some heroics in this moment, but here's Caden Salter's opportunity to kind of make his claim and plant the flagpole in the ground that Juju Lewis, who I'm the starting quarterback of this Colorado Buffaloes team, and really just an uninspiring final drive from the Colorado Buffaloes to end this game. I mean, Dion talked about the game clock usage and the timeouts and whatnot. Didn't seem too irked with that. I mean, Dion's always going to be a positive guy. I like Dion. I think he's a good coach. I think he's an even better man and whatnot. But the play calling was a bit suspect. Not just in the final drive of the game, but the entirety of the game. Nothing new See, we got a comment here asking about Pat Shurmur's play call, and we'll get to that. Don't worry. I got some thoughts on that for sure, especially if you're a Denver Bronco fan. You know Pat Shurmur and his offense and his play calling up close and personal. But, point being, yes, Colorado had an opportunity to win this game late. Yes, they don't have Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter here anymore. Would Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter figured out a way to bail them out of that situation? Probably. Does Colorado win this game if Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter are out there? Probably. But the reality of the situation is those two guys are gone. And that's why this is such an intriguing season of Colorado football. And for Coach Prime in particular, we heard all offseason, right? From himself, he talked about it leading up to this game. I heard the interview, I think it was on Tuesday or Wednesday, talking about, if a player goes down, and thankfully they didn't have any crazy injuries tonight, they don't have to shatter the glass. And, in case of emergency, they're deep at a lot of these different positions. But that depth, the athleticism didn't really show up tonight, as they just did not look in sync. When I watched Georgia Tech coming out of the tunnel, and I guess it doesn't hold up, quite as well, I saw a team that was focused. I saw a team that was dialed, albeit the 3 turnovers in the first quarter are the opposite of that. But you saw as the game went along, a team with that experience that they were able to lean on and get this road win. So it's a good win for Georgia Tech, but I think it's even more of I don't think Georgia Tech went out there and solidified the win tonight. I think Colorado handed them the game to a certain extent. Colorado had multiple opportunities to run away with this game and didn't. That's the fact of the matter, in my opinion. So where do we go from here? We go to Delaware. That's where we're at with this Colorado Buffaloes team. But a missed opportunity here this evening, and we'll see how they bounce back from it. We shall see. It looked like it was starting out well. Caden Salter, touchdown strike, to open up the game there on their first drive after after one of the fumbles, went fumble, DJ McKinney interception. That was a Declan Taylor, the reception. He had 3 receptions for 38 yards tonight, essentially the leading receiver for CU in this game. Omarion Miller had the 1 reception for 39 yards, a sweet pass from Salter down the sideline. But, outside of that, man, it was pretty quiet for the most part in the Colorado offensive system. I mean, 17 for 28 was Caden Salter, only 159 passing yards, a touchdown, a quarterback rating of 57.8. Not great. You saw Salter overthrow a couple of balls tonight. He, in his post-game media availability, talked about, this is the biggest situation, the biggest scenario, the biggest crowd he's ever had to play in. A guy who played at Tennessee, or didn't play at Tennessee, but enrolled at Tennessee, ended up transferring out before spending 4 years at Liberty. Big difference between playing at Liberty and playing here at Folsom Field. And Folsom Field, and I love Colorado, this ain't the SEC either. Not that they have, any of those types of matchups on their schedule, but Caden Salter's got to get this thing figured out quickly. Because, there's people, I was standing right there on the tunnel, right where the Buffs, come out or, walk in and out, during the game. And I heard a couple fans, chant for Juju. That's the reality of the situation. If Caden does not play well, and he did not play well tonight, you're going to hear those chants for Juju get louder and louder and louder and louder. Now, would Juju have been that much better tonight? I'm not so sure. We're talking about an 18-year-old, or I think he's still 17 years old. We're talking about a legitimate teenager here who has all the talent in the world. 5-star recruit, second highest rated quarterback in his high school class, right? We know everything with Juju Lewis. But I guess I would preach patience with Caden Salter. I would preach patience with this team. The season is not over by any stretch of the imagination. But the fact of the matter is the Colorado Buffaloes had an opportunity, a golden opportunity, to go out there and set the table and start the season with a win and take advantage of those 3 first quarter turnovers and run away with this game. And the fact of the matter is they did not. You are what your record says you are. And right now for the Colorado Buffaloes, they're 0-1. That's the fact of the matter, folks. All right, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we will continue along with the conversation. Let's talk about the play calling. Mr. Pat Shurmur, who I think is going to be public enemy number 1 in the eyes of Buffs fans if his offense plays like it did tonight for the rest of the season. So we'll talk about Pat Shurmur, some other thoughts on the game as a whole when we come back right here on your Locked On Buffs postcast. Back in just a moment, folks. All right, you guys, real quick, let me tell you about our friends over at Gametime, because college football is back and I couldn't be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there's just nothing like it. But let's be real, folks. Actually getting tickets can feel more like of a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout. That's why I use Gametime, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best price with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. So to take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Gametime, download the Gametime app today, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off your first purchase. Terms, they do apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Gametime today. And guys, we're also doing a little survey promotion here at Locked On. We have an important request. Locked On wants to hear from you. Yes, you. We've put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make your favorite podcast even better. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't, and answer any questions about our advertising. Go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes a survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Again, that's lockedonpodcast.com/survey. You can also find the link in the show notes. Thanks for helping us out, folks. And last but certainly not least, let me tell you about our friends over at Upside, because, hey fans, are you still paying full price for gas? Stop leaving that money behind. Get real cash back every time you fill up with the free Upside app. Simply download the free Upside app in the App Store or Google Play Store right now and start earning cash at the pump today. Use my limited time promo code FOOTBALL and get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. You can make up to $300 a year just from buying gas that you already needed. At first, I thought it was too good to be true, but it's totally legit. Real people are getting paid just to make their daily commutes, and you can too. Plus, you can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or an e-gift card from Amazon and other brands. Don't let this offer drive on by. Download the free Upside app now using my limited time promo code FOOTBALL for a limited time 25 cent per gallon bonus. That's promo code FOOTBALL. Offers vary based on user and location. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions. Be sure to check out our friends over at Upside and let them know that Locked On Buffs sent you. All right, welcome on back into your Locked On Buffs postcast. I am your host, Aniello Piro. You guys can follow me on Instagram, X, and all that good stuff at Media by AP, recapping a frustrating loss for the Colorado Buffaloes. Not any means a doomsday scenario, not any way a season over type of loss. It is still August, right? This is the first game of the season for the Colorado Buffaloes, but definitely something to read into here. A team that looked a bit rambunctious out there, didn't look like there was a ton of cohesion out there. You know, Reggie Hughes, who had himself a nice game, talked about that a little bit in his post-game press conference as well. But ultimately, it is a 27-20 loss for the Colorado Buffaloes. Some big picture stuff real quick before we get to Pat Shurmur in particular. We'll kind of end there. I mean, CU just got absolutely gashed in this game. They have 463 yards. Let me say that again. 463 yards of total offense for Georgia Tech today, compared to just 305 yards of total offense for CU. That is not going to cut it. What else is new? They got absolutely gashed in the run department tonight, 320 yards rushing for Georgia Tech, albeit Colorado actually was able to run the ball tonight. Hopefully that's a theme that continues for CU throughout the course of the season. 146 rushing yards for Colorado. But yeah, I mean, you're just not going to win many football games when you're giving up 463 yards all purpose, despite the fact that they turned the ball over 3 times. Let's remember that. Again, 3 turnovers in the first quarter, and they still managed to put up those many yards on offense. So it is what it is. Got to move forward. Kaidon Salter, not great tonight. His first game for CU, 17-28, 159 passing yards, a touchdown, and a QBR, 57.8. Not great. Not great. But it's still very early. Michael Welch led the way tonight in the rushing department for CU, 11 carries for 64 yards. Kaidon Salter, the second leading rusher, 13 carries for 43 yards. And Coach Prime talked about how, he's a true dual threat. They want to see him run the ball a little bit more moving forward. Kaidon talked about how, there were some instances with him, showing off the arm, some different opportunities, holding onto the ball a little bit. Like, Kaidon Salter is not Shedeur Sanders. Not trying to say that he was trying to play like Shedeur tonight, but one little thing that we pick up on with Kaidon Salter is he cannot be afraid to use his legs. There was a couple of instances where, he had first down opportunities, or had chunk play opportunities and was kind of rolling outside of the pocket. And instead of tucking the ball and running, was looking for an open receiver. The touch wasn't quite there tonight for Kaidon Salter. So we'll see how that improves moving forward. But you know what else wasn't there for not just Kaidon Salter, but the entirety of the Colorado Buffaloes offense tonight? What is up with the play calling? Not surprised. We know who the play caller is for Colorado. It's Pat Shurmur. But the play calling was just not great tonight. Just really like uninspiring. I mean, Omarion Miller, a guy who's been with the Buffs for a couple of years now and has made some, great plays for the Colorado Buffaloes. 1 reception for 39 yards. 1 reception for 39 yards. Draylon Miller, Another guy who's been with CU for a minute. 2 receptions for 13 yards. What are we doing here? I'm not saying force the ball to Omarion Miller and Draylon Miller, but these are 2 guys that are more than capable of getting open and making some chunk plays. And I just felt like the offense wasn't necessarily tailored to that tonight. Coach Prime said as much tonight that they got to get those wide receivers going. They've got playmakers at running back and receiver. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on. But especially in that 2-minute offense there at the end of the game, some of the play calling, the swing passes, this inside zone that they just continue to go back to. And I understand that they ran the ball decent tonight or effectively with 146 on the ground. And I understand you don't have Shador back there who's Mr. Improv that can make magic happen. But I just felt like Caden Salter was not exactly set up for success with the play calling tonight, folks. I mean, the offense today, I understand that the defense was not great, but for the offense to be as shaky as they were, I don't know, man. So we'll chalk it up to first game jitters, right? We'll chalk it up to being the start of the season and whatnot. They got a game against Delaware next week. That's a game that Colorado should win running away, if we're being honest with ourselves here. But only time will tell. Only time will tell. So, I'm not going to have the Pat Shurmur conversation right now. It's one game. But if the offense keeps up like this, man, how much confidence do you have in Pat Shurmur calling the plays? Again, this was a blown opportunity, a blown game tonight for the Colorado Buffaloes to go out there and make a statement on national television, something that they're not used to. They're on national TV all the time, or at least they have been the last couple of years. But just a frustrating way to lose a game that was very, very winnable. And obviously this is the CU show. It's not the Georgia Tech show, but I'd love to hear from a Georgia Tech host, analyst, fan. I felt like this game was much more about CU losing than it was Georgia Tech winning. CU had so many opportunities in this game, folks. Obviously, it started in the first quarter with those 3 turnovers, but 10 points in the second half. Georgia Tech only put up 14. Only 14 points in the second half, so it's not like Georgia Tech ran away with it. Haynes King definitely had himself a game, though. 13-20. Passing, 143 yards, 7.2 yards per reception on average. Also added 156 yards on the ground with 19 carries and the 3 scores. So, Haynes King did exactly what we thought Haynes King was going to do. Another dual threat quarterback. I said it, pregame on the radio here in Denver and talking to some people here that the way that Colorado was going to win this game today is they were going to have to make Haynes King beat him with their arm. And they did not. Haynes King beat him with their legs tonight, folks. That's the reality. So, frustrating game. But the season is here. I'm happy that football is back. Let me know if you guys have any thoughts, comments, questions. Go ahead and drop those now. Yeah, 320 rushing yards for Georgia Tech is pretty bad, man. Rushing yards aren't a fluke. I agree. The defense was just all over the place tonight. I thought some individual guys had some good moments. I thought Reginald Hughes, in his first game for CU, 11 total tackles, 9 of them solo. Martavius French made some plays. DJ McKinney with the interception as well. Jaheim Otis, the Alabama boy who's listed as 3rd string on the depth chart, heard his name called a few times in the first half there. But again, what I saw, and I'll kind of end it on this, a lot of guys playing as individuals, not playing as a team. That's what I saw tonight. That's what I saw. So we'll see where they go from here. Should be able to take care of business against Delaware, but my kind of closing thought, big picture here is this is a game that got away from Colorado. This was a very, very winnable game. One that Colorado was unable to win. Fact of the matter. 3 turnovers, 7 points. Not going to do you any favors. Those came early in the game, but really just uninspiring offense and a defense that was letting anybody run all over them today. So it is what it is. CU is 0-1 to start the year, and away we go. All right, that is going to do it for me, folks. Really appreciate y'all tapping in with me tonight on the show. I'll be here all season long. Make sure to hit that like button, smash that subscribe button as well. You can also follow me on social media at Media by AP. 0-1 to start the year. Bad loss on to Delaware. We'll talk to you guys after that game. Enjoy the rest of your Friday evening. Talk to you guys next week. Have a good one, folks.